The Galactic Assembly Hall, a beacon of unity among the countless worlds of the known universe, was abuzz with tension. The vast crystalline dome that crowned the chamber sparkled under the artificial light, its opalescent walls refracting a spectrum of colors that danced over the gathered delegates. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the hall, each occupying their designated tiers based on size, physiology, and atmospheric needs. The air was thick with the hum of overlapping voices, the soft buzz of translators, and the quiet rustle of organic and synthetic appendages. At the center of the chamber stood the humans, representatives of Earth, the youngest member of the Galactic Coalition. They were surrounded by a semicircular platform, their expressions calm but watchful. Captain Elise Durant, a decorated military officer with steel-gray eyes and a demeanor to match, stood at the forefront. Beside her was Dr. Raj Mehta, a cultural anthropologist whose calm wisdom had been instrumental in fostering alliances. Flanking them were Commander Marcus Vance, a man of action who rarely minced words, and Specialist Clara Hayes, an engineer and linguist whose brilliance often went unnoticed until the moment it was needed. The humans had been summoned for a hearing, their patience strained but unbroken. For years, they had endured subtle mockery and underhanded diplomacy from older species, who viewed them as reckless newcomers from a death world, a planet so hostile that its very existence seemed improbable to those from gentler worlds. On this day, the accusations came from the Zoralis Dominion, an insectoid species known for their rigid hierarchy and merciless enforcement of galactic trade laws. The Zoralis ambassador, a towering figure with a chitinous exoskeleton that shimmered like polished onyx, clicked its mandibles in sharp bursts of sound, translated into a cold, robotic voice. "Humans of Earth," the ambassador began, its tone dripping with disdain. "You have been charged with gross violations of coalition trade agreements. Your kind's unpredictable behavior and disregard for established protocols endanger the fragile balance of our interstellar economy." Elise stepped forward, her gaze unwavering. "Ambassador Zoralis, with respect, these accusations are baseless. We have adhered to every agreement and contributed to trade routes that were previously abandoned due to piracy. If you have evidence, present it." The Zoralis ambassador raised a segmented arm, and a holographic display materialized in the air. It showed distorted footage of a human ship firing on a Zoralis vessel, its plasma cannons ripping through the latter's shields. Gasps echoed through the hall as the delegates turned their attention to the humans. Elisa's expression remained neutral, but her jaw tightened. She recognized the ship, but not the context. "This footage is misleading," she said calmly. "That was a defensive action against an unprovoked attack. Your vessel was actively disabling a humanitarian convoy." The ambassador's mandibles clicked again, this time in what could only be described as smugness. "A convenient story. Unfortunately, we see no evidence of this so-called convoy. What we see is your kind acting with typical violence, undermining the very order this coalition represents." Before Elise could respond, Commander Vance took a step forward, his voice sharp. "You mean the order you represent? The same order that turns a blind eye to your smuggling operations and forced labor camps? Don't pretend you're saints." The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates whispered furiously, translators struggling to keep up with the cacophony. The Zoralis ambassador hissed, its shimmering form stiffening. "This is slander." "It's the truth," Vance shot back, unflinching. Elise raised a hand to silence him, her voice cutting through the noise. "Enough. We're not here to trade insults. We're here to seek the truth." The High Arbiter of the Coalition, an ancient being whose translucent form seemed to shift between solid and liquid, finally spoke, its voice resonating like a choir of bells. "Order! The chamber will come to order." Silence fell, and all eyes returned to the humans. The Arbiter turned its many-faceted gaze toward Elise. "You claim this footage is misleading. Can you provide evidence to support your claim?" Dr. Mehta stepped forward, his calm voice carrying across the room. "We can. The data logs from the Aegis Dawn, the ship in question, clearly show that the Zoralis vessel fired first. Additionally, the convoy's distress signal and logs of their cargo, food and medical supplies bound for a frontier world, are archived in our Coalition database. If the Arbiter permits, we can share these records now. The Arbiter inclined its form slightly. Permission granted. Clara quickly connected a portable device to the chamber's central interface, her fingers flying over the holographic keyboard. Within moments, a new display appeared, showing timestamped data logs, recorded transmissions, and a visual reconstruction of the event. It painted a starkly different picture, the Zoralis vessel initiating an attack on an unarmed convoy, with the human ship intervening to protect it. Gasps filled the chamber again, but this time they were directed at the Zoralis delegation. The ambassador's mandibles clicked furiously, its composure cracking. This is fabricated. It's authenticated. Clara interjected, her voice steady. I can provide the verification codes if needed. The Arbiter studied the evidence, its many facets reflecting the glowing data. The evidence is compelling. Ambassador Zoralis, do you have a counterclaim? The Zoralis ambassador faltered, its clicks uneven. This is a coordinated attack on our reputation. The humans, Elise interrupted, her voice rising, have been patient. We have followed your rules, endured your slander, and proven ourselves time and again. But patience has its limits. If you wish to accuse us, bring facts, not manufactured lies. The hall fell silent, the weight of Elise's words hanging in the air. Even the Arbiter seemed momentarily still, its fluid form rippling faintly. For the first time, the humans were not just participants in the Coalition, they were a force to be reckoned with. In that silence, the mood in the chamber shifted. For years, humans had been underestimated, dismissed as chaotic newcomers from a violent world. Now they stood as equals, their resilience and integrity undeniable. The Arbiter finally spoke. The evidence exonerates the humans. The charges are dismissed. The humans didn't cheer or gloat. Elise simply nodded, stepping back to rejoin her team. As the delegates whispered among themselves, a realization began to settle over the room. This wasn't the day humans became respected members of the Coalition. It was the day the galaxy realized they were done being underestimated. The dismissal of the charges against the humans sent shockwaves through the Galactic Assembly. The whispers of disbelief among the delegates grew louder in the days that followed, and the repercussions were swift. While some species viewed humanity's victory as a testament to their integrity, others, particularly the Zoralis and their allies, saw it as a dangerous precedent. A Deathworld species had not only survived the intricate web of galactic politics but had also turned it against one of the Coalition's most powerful factions. Within days, retaliatory measures began to surface. Trade agreements that Earth had painstakingly negotiated were suspended for review. Human cargo ships found themselves subjected to invasive inspections at Coalition checkpoints, often delayed or fined for minor infractions. Rumors spread that humanity was hoarding resources, expanding militarily, or preparing to upend the Coalition's fragile balance of power. The humans, however, remained resolute. On Earth's orbital station, Unity Command, Captain Elise Durant sat in a conference room with her core team. The view from the station offered a breathtaking panorama of Earth, its swirling blue and green hues a stark contrast to the cold, sterile room they occupied. Commander Marcus Vance leaned back in his chair, his sharp features etched with frustration. So, the Zoralis lost their little smear campaign, and now they're doubling down. Trade suspensions, propaganda, and blockades? What's next? A fleet at our doorstep? Dr. Raj Mehta adjusted his glasses, his calm voice cutting through the tension. This was expected. The Zoralis don't take public humiliation lightly. But we can't afford to retaliate with aggression. It's exactly what they want. They're trying to bait us into confirming their narrative. Specialist Clara Hayes tapped on her datapad, bringing up a holographic display of recent incidents. Our supply chains are already feeling the strain. If this continues, our colonies on the outer rim will face shortages within weeks. Elise steepled her fingers, her expression unreadable. We're not responding with force, but we're not sitting idle either. Clara, divert all non-essential resources to the affected colonies. If the Zoralis are trying to starve our people, we make sure they fail. Clara nodded. Understood, Captain? Marcus frowned. And what about the propaganda? Every other coalition channel is calling us warmongers. If we just sit back and play defense, we're letting them control the narrative. Elise leaned back, her steel-gray eyes locking onto Marcus. Then we change the narrative. Raj, I need you to mobilize our diplomatic corps. Start reaching out to neutral species. Show them who we really are, what we stand for. If we can't stop the Zoralis from speaking, we'll drown them out with the truth. Raj nodded. I'll contact our embassies immediately. But the Zoralis are deeply embedded in the coalition's power structure. Winning hearts and minds will take time. Elise's jaw tightened. Then we buy time. As Earth scrambled to counter the escalating pressure, the Zoralis launched their next move. A fleet of heavily armed vessels blockaded one of humanity's key trade routes, cutting off access to critical supplies and threatening any ship that attempted to pass. It was an act of calculated aggression, designed to provoke humanity into a military response. On board the Resolute Vanguard, the flagship of Earth's fleet, Marcus stood on the bridge, his expression grim as he studied the blockade on the tactical display. Dozens of Zoralis warships hovered in formation, their sleek, insected designs bristling with weapons. They're daring us to engage, Marcus muttered. If we fire the first shot, they'll spin it as proof we're the monsters they've been warning everyone about. Clara, monitoring the comms station, looked up. We just received a message from the Zoralis commander. They're demanding our ships withdraw from the sector immediately. Marcus snorted. Of course they are. If we back down, they'll claim victory. If we fight, we give them what they want. Elisa's voice crackled over the comms from Unity Command. Commander Vance, hold your position. We're working on an alternative solution. Marcus turned toward the screen, his frustration barely contained. With all due respect, Captain, alternatives aren't going to move that blockade. We've got colonies waiting for supplies. Elisa's gaze was steady. And if we escalate, those colonies won't just be waiting, they'll be caught in the crossfire. Trust me, Marcus. We're not playing by their rules. As the standoff dragged on, Earth's diplomatic corps worked tirelessly behind the scenes. Dr. Mehta and his team contacted dozens of species, leveraging humanity's reputation for resilience and cooperation. They highlighted the Zoralis aggression and appealed to the coalition's shared values of unity and justice. The turning point came unexpectedly. A transmission arrived from the Trellick Confederacy, a reclusive species known for their neutrality and advanced technology. Their ambassador, a willowy figure with shimmering, translucent skin, addressed the assembly with a calm yet authoritative voice. The Trellick Confederacy has reviewed the evidence provided by Earth and observed the Zoralis actions firsthand, the ambassador said. We find their behavior to be in violation of coalition principles. As such, we are deploying relief fleets to assist Earth's colonies and ensure the free passage of goods. The announcement sent shockwaves through the assembly. The Trellick had never taken sides in any conflict, their intervention lending unprecedented legitimacy to humanity's cause. Back on the Resolute Vanguard, Marcus allowed himself a small smile as the tactical display updated. Dozens of Trellick ships blinked into position along the trade route, their sleek, ethereal designs a stark contrast to the aggressive lines of the Zoralis fleet. Clara grinned. Looks like we're not alone anymore. The Zoralis commander, faced with the combined might of human and Trellick forces, grudgingly ordered the blockade to disperse. The humans had won the standoff without firing a single shot. On Unity Command, Elise watched the unfolding events with quiet satisfaction. She turned to Raj, who stood beside her. One battle down. How many more to go? Raj smiled faintly. As many as it takes. Elise nodded, her resolve unshaken. The Zoralis had underestimated humanity's patience and adaptability. But the humans weren't just enduring, they were turning the tide. For every door the Zoralis tried to close, humanity found another way in. As the news of the blockade's end spread across the galaxy, whispers began to circulate in the halls of power. Humanity was no longer just a newcomer to the coalition. They were proving that even a Deathworld species could play the long game, and win. The tension in the coalition reached a boiling point. Humanity's unexpected triumph over the Zoralis blockade had shifted the balance of power, but it had also drawn the ire of those who feared the rise of a Deathworld species. In the days following the standoff, whispers of retaliation grew louder. The Zoralis Dominion, humiliated and desperate to reassert its dominance, launched a covert campaign to destabilize humanity's alliances and sow distrust among their new allies. Inside Unity Command, Captain Elise Durant convened her core team in the war room. The holographic table in the center of the room displayed reports of sabotage, misinformation campaigns, and even rumors of assassination attempts on human diplomats. The stakes had never been higher. Commander Marcus Vance slammed his fist onto the table, his frustration boiling over. "They're targeting our allies now. Relief ships from the Trellic Confederacy were ambushed in neutral space, and they're blaming us for it. If this keeps up, we'll lose everything we've built." Dr. Raj Mehta, ever the voice of calm, adjusted his glasses and replied, "That's exactly what they want. The Zoralis are experts at manipulation. If we respond with force, we'll play right into their narrative." Specialist Clara Hayes, who had been poring over intercepted communications, spoke up. "I've been analyzing the patterns in their sabotage operations. They're coordinated, but they're also leaving traces they didn't bother hiding before. It's almost like they want us to catch them." Elise narrowed her eyes, her sharp mind piecing the puzzle together. "They're setting a trap. They want us to overreact, to make a mistake that justifies an all-out assault." Marcus crossed his arms. "So what's the play? Sit back and let them run circles around us?" Elise shook her head. "No. We flipped the script." She turned to Clara. "If they're leaving breadcrumbs, let's follow them. But on our terms. Identify their weak points and set a trap of our own." Clara grinned. "On it. Give me a day, and I'll have a plan." Raj nodded. "In the meantime, we need to secure our alliances. The Trellic have stood by us, but they're under immense pressure. If we can strengthen their resolve, it will send a message to the rest of the coalition." Elise looked at Raj. "Take a delegation to the Trellic homeworld. Assure them that humanity stands with them, no matter what." Raj inclined his head. "I'll leave immediately." As Raj departed, Clara and her team worked tirelessly to trace the Zoralis operations. They discovered a hidden network of supply depots scattered across the galaxy, fueling the Dominion's covert campaign. One depot, in particular, stood out, a massive station in an uncharted sector, heavily fortified but critical to the Zoralis logistics. Back on the Resolute Vanguard, Marcus and Elise reviewed Clara's findings. The holographic display showed the depot's defenses, automated turrets, minefields, and a fleet of patrol ships. "It's a fortress," Marcus said. "Even if we can get in, there's no way we're getting out without heavy losses." Elise studied the display, her mind racing. "We won't go in guns blazing. This isn't just about taking out a depot, it's about sending a message. If we can expose their operations to the coalition, they'll lose the political cover that's keeping them untouchable." Clara chimed in, her voice filled with excitement. "We've been working on a way to infiltrate their comms network. If we can plant a data spike inside their system, we'll have enough evidence to implicate them in every dirty operation they've run against us and our allies." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "And how do we get close enough to plant the spike without getting blown to bits?" Clara's grin widened. "I've got a plan. It involves a little misdirection, some creative engineering, and a lot of luck." Elise smirked. "Let's hear it." The plan was ambitious, bordering on reckless. The Resolute Vanguard would feign a distress signal, luring a Zoralis patrol ship away from the depot. Meanwhile, a small infiltration team, led by Marcus and Clara, would use a cloaked shuttle to sneak onto the station. The shuttle would land in a blind spot identified by Clara's analysis, allowing the team to plant the data spike and escape undetected. As the operation began, tension gripped the crew. The Resolute Vanguard drifted into the patrol zone, broadcasting a carefully crafted distress signal. The Zoralis patrol ship took the bait, moving to intercept what it believed to be a damaged human vessel. "Here we go," Marcus muttered as the cloaked shuttle slipped past the patrols and approached the depot. Inside the station, the infiltration team moved with practiced precision. Clara's expertise in engineering and Marcus's tactical instincts proved invaluable as they navigated the maze-like structure, avoiding patrols and disabling security systems. Finally, they reached the central server room. Clara plugged the data spike into the mainframe, her fingers flying over the controls. "We're in. Downloading everything. Ship manifests, supply routes, sabotage plans. This is enough to bury the Zoralis in sanctions." Marcus kept watch, his weapon ready. "How long?" 2 minutes, Clara replied, sweat beading on her forehead. "Maybe less if you stop asking." Their luck ran out when an alarm blared, and the room was flooded with red light. The Zoralis had discovered the breach. Marcus cursed under his breath. "We've got company. Clara, finish up!" The door burst open, and Zoralis guards poured in, their weapons raised. Marcus moved with deadly precision, taking down the first wave with practiced ease. Clara pulled the spike free just as the download completed, clutching it tightly. "Got it!" she shouted. "Let's move!" The team fought their way back to the shuttle, evading relentless pursuit. As they took off, the depot's defenses roared to life, firing at the escaping craft. Clara activated a decoy drone, drawing the fire long enough for the shuttle to slip away. Back aboard the Resolute Vanguard, the data was transmitted to Unity Command and key Coalition members. The evidence was irrefutable, exposing the Zoralis sabotage and illegal operations. Within hours, the Coalition assembly was in an uproar. As Elise watched the fallout unfold, she turned to Marcus, who stood beside her. "One more battle down." "How many more to go?" Marcus smirked. "As many as it takes." The revelations from the data spike sent shockwaves through the Coalition. Humanity's broadcast of the Zoralis Dominion's covert operations, complete with damning visuals of sabotage, illegal blockades, and documented plans for destabilizing neutral alliances, forced the Galactic Assembly to act. Species that had previously dismissed the humans as reckless or naive were now taking notice of their ingenuity, resilience, and moral clarity. In the Assembly Hall, the mood was electric. Delegates who had once scoffed at humanity now whispered among themselves, many casting furtive glances toward the Zoralis delegation. The towering ambassador, its shimmering exoskeleton dimmed under the chamber's harsh lights, clicked its mandibles nervously. The evidence was undeniable, and the once feared Zoralis were now backed into a corner. At the center of the chamber stood Captain Elise Durant, flanked by Commander Marcus Vance, Dr. Raj Mehta, and Specialist Clara Hayes. Their expressions were calm but resolute. Elise stepped forward, her sharp gaze scanning the room. "Members of the Galactic Assembly," Elise began, her voice ringing out clearly. "For years, humanity has endured your skepticism, your dismissals, and your doubts. We have been called reckless, unpredictable, even dangerous. Yet when we joined this coalition, we believed in its principles, unity, justice, and the pursuit of peace. Today, those principles are under threat, not from us, but from the actions of the Zoralis Dominion." A holographic display flickered to life beside her, showing the evidence her team had gathered. Images of sabotage operations, intercepted communications, and blockades filled the chamber, accompanied by audio of Zoralis commanders ordering attacks on civilian convoys. Gasps echoed through the crowd. "For too long," Elise continued, "the Zoralis have operated with impunity, hiding behind their power and influence. But today, their crimes are laid bare for all to see. The question before this assembly is simple: will you uphold the principles you claim to stand for, or will you allow corruption to dictate the galaxy's future?" The chamber erupted into heated debate. Some delegates called for immediate sanctions against the Zoralis, while others urged caution, fearing the destabilization of the coalition. Amid the chaos, the High Arbiter, a towering being of light and energy, raised its translucent hand. The room fell silent. "Ambassador Zoralis," the Arbiter said, its voice resonating like a melody. "You have heard the accusations against your dominion. Do you deny them?" The Zoralis ambassador stepped forward, its mandibles clicking in frustration. "The so-called evidence presented by the humans is circumstantial at best. This is nothing more than a coordinated attack to undermine our standing in the coalition." Clara Hayes, standing at Elisa's side, couldn't hold back. "Circumstantial? Those are your commander's voices on the recordings. Your ships in the blockades. Your plans spelled out in your own transmissions. What part of this is unclear?" The ambassador glared at Clara but said nothing. The silence was damning. The arbiter turned its many-faceted gaze back to the assembly. "The evidence has been authenticated. It is the decision of this body to determine the appropriate response." Elise stepped forward again, her voice steady. "Humanity does not seek revenge. We seek accountability. We propose sanctions against the Zoralis Dominion, the freezing of assets, the restriction of fleet movements, and a full investigation into their operations." The arbiter inclined its head. "The proposal is noted. A vote will be conducted." As the delegates cast their votes, the tension in the chamber was palpable. When the results were displayed, the humans' proposal had passed by a narrow margin. The Zoralis delegation stormed out of the chamber, their defeat evident. Back on Earth's orbital station, Unity Command, the mood was cautiously optimistic. Elise and her team gathered in the central operations room, watching as news of the sanctions spread across coalition channels. Raj Mehta turned to Elise, his expression thoughtful. "We've won this round, but the Zoralis won't take this lying down. They'll regroup, find new ways to undermine us." Elise nodded. "I know. But we've sent a message. Humanity isn't just here to survive, we're here to thrive. And we'll stand up for what's right, no matter the cost." Marcus leaned against the console, a rare smile tugging at his lips. "I never thought I'd see the day when the galaxy took us seriously. Guess they finally figured out what happens when you push Deathworlders too far." Clara chuckled. "It's about time. Now maybe we can start building alliances that actually mean something." As the team dispersed, Elise stood by the viewport, gazing out at Earth. The blue planet shimmered against a backdrop of stars, a testament to humanity's resilience. They had faced impossible odds, endured endless skepticism, and emerged stronger for it. But this was only the beginning. The Coalition had learned an important lesson that day. Humanity might come from a death world, but they carried something far more dangerous than brute strength. They carried hope, and the unyielding determination to make it count. As Elise turned away from the viewport, she felt a quiet pride in her team and her people. The galaxy would continue to test them, to challenge their place among the stars. But humanity had shown that when the stakes were highest, they didn't just endure, they thrived. And in doing so, they inspired others to stand with them. The story of the day humanity stopped being nice would be told for generations. Not as a tale of vengeance or conquest, but as a testament to what could be achieved when principles were upheld and courage outweighed fear.